to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today's guest is Rick Desrochers, the owner of Northern Dreams Photography. He's here today to talk about the Eclipse and how he went about photographing it. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that was quite the show.
It was awesome.
Right. Is that do you remember any other eclipses? Probably not full, but
Yes, I think back at it. I was actually at Sacred Heart. It had to be during the 70s.
right.
At Sacred Heart when I was going there.
Right. There's probably a partial eclipse.
Yeah, it was a partial eclipse.
In the 1990s, I believe there was another one. And then I don't think you were around since you're younger than me. The August 31st, 1932 eclipse. Probably it was back in your grandparents' day.
Absolutely.
But that was the last full solar eclipse in the Northeast Kingdom. I haven't figured out. I've tried to learn when the next full eclipse is in the kingdom, but I don't know. I think we're going to be pushing up daisies.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was looking at it the other day, and it's long after we're away.
Right.
Yeah.
So what did you think about how everything came out?
I think it really went well for the state of Vermont, the whole Northeast Kingdom, from St. Jay to Newport to Jay Peak, and like I said, the whole state of Vermont did a wonderful job. The traffic, that's why I stayed home and shot the eclipse from my house in Derby Line. There was just a ton of people around, and it was about family, spending time with family for that. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
Right.
So.
Yeah, even though there was a lot of traffic, and I know there were some real glitches, like, somebody down in Barton found out what happens when you park your vehicle next to the railroad tracks, and a much bigger train comes down, and that got hit, but fortunately, nobody was seriously injured. But my experience from the Newport Derby area, there was a lot of traffic, but I thought it was kept. Of course it was a little slow, but, particularly for the locals, I found, at least for myself, because I knew the streets, it really didn't slow me up. If you had to get across town, it was a little dicey, but I've got to say is they've, everybody, whether it be the locals, the visitors, the organizers, the police, everybody did a phenomenal job. And because I worried leading up to it because I worried about the hysteria that was being put out there. I think to actually compare what was going to go on to the Fish Festival was kind of like comparing apples to oranges. But on the flip side, I do believe we learned a lot from the Fish Festival, but the traffic I found kept flowing. I do understand some of the interstate traffic, and there were some bottlenecks in Caledonia County. I do understand that was a bit of a challenge.
But that's going to happen any time that you have a massive amount of traffic leaving, whether you're going to a sports event or something like that. There's going to be a massive amount of traffic. What I'm hearing from, friends and family that were out was the kindness of people, how much they appreciated this area, and they would love to come back. And they have people from out in California that came here. You look at Coventry Airport, they said 91 private airplanes came into that area. So it was great for the whole area. Newport needed something like this, and it shows that we can do something big.
Right. Yeah. There were social media. You got a lot of social media heroes out there, and I mean that in a not a nice way. You had people out there, and and they really made fools of themselves, I believe. There's one thing, about freedom of speech, and you have freedom of speech, but you also have freedom to make a fool of yourself. Like, there were people saying, I hope it rains out, I hope it's ruined. And they were such a marginalized group of people that people just looked at them as being the fools that they are.
Complainer, the ones that complain. When I was out there, we were, texting each other back and forth during the day, and I had sent my drone up and took a great shot, before the eclipse started happening, to show you, hey, it was bright, it was sunshiny day out there, and it was a great. You couldn't ask for better weather.
Yeah. Oh, no, you couldn't.
We had, it was crazy, like the lavender farm up in Derby Line, they were buried. They had a whole bunch of campers coming up, and they had a bunch of people in the area come and help them clean up. Larry Kelly cleaned up for them and got it ready for all the campers. So, and they did a really great job.
Everybody seems so happy. Like, I chose to be a little more low key. I did go around. I took photos. I even gave a traffic report. But then for the event, I chose to spend it where I've spent for the last almost 40 years of my life, and I spent it with some family, and we had a good time. And but just driving around, everybody looks so happy. And like, about cameras and probably even telescopes. I suspect that some of those telescopes I saw probably cost more than cameras, and telescopes cost more than my vehicle did.
Oh, if not more,
Right.
and quite a bit more. I took some, really cool shots. There was others that had some great, there's some local photographers around here that we were talking about earlier that did a wonderful job taking photos, whether, it was a drone photo of, going over Newport area to show people, how many people were here in Prouty Beach, to local people taking it from the ground. I mean, so it was a great day. From, like, we were talking when the total eclipse happened, and I got a really, really cool shot, but it was crazy because all the birds, everything, it was calm.
Right.
And the temperature dropped like crazy. And then when we came out of and when that happened, there was people cheering,
Right.
all like the cheers and the fireworks going off. And then all of a sudden, when the sun came back out, all the birds thought it was,
Right.
Time to be feeding again. And you could hear the birds chirping and everything moving again.
Okay. So here, let's show the viewers some of your
Yes.
photos.
So one of the photos that I had taken, so I took it to show the progression. So I had taken one from the air, and it was like sunshine out and blue skies. And then as it progressed, it got darker and darker, and I showed pictures of the eclipse. Then I got a really cool one. Trish took, a significant other took my cameras and kept on shooting, and I took my drone, sent it up, and got a really great shot. It looked like the sunset with a total eclipse. And then just coming out of it, she even got one. Scott messaged me, and you're like, hey, get a shot of you out there with the cameras, and so Trish got a shot with me with the cameras. So it was a lot of fun. One thing that I've got out of it is the kindness. No matter what position you are in life, the kindness of people for 2 minutes was stunning. Like, people were I heard that people are crying and hugging, and it just looks, add 5 minutes to it, and what can we do with kindness?
You know what is the world is full of wonderful people. I know, as I've said ad nauseum, if people would really stop paying so much attention. I'm not saying don't pay any attention to politicians and the media and the media. I think you've got to, but you got to put it in perspective. Their part of their role is to keep us divided, because to keep themselves relevant is what we saw that day. Because you say 2 minutes, I think it was throughout the day. So much goodwill that exists out there every day. It's just that a lot of times between the politicians and the media, they just kind of they want to keep things stirred up and make it appear that
Right.
that is not reality.
Yep. I looked at, Steve Wright did a good shout out for the Northeast Kingdom yesterday during an interview, and they had people booking 4 years ago. Derby Line had them over 2 years ago booking Derby Line Village Inn with Fritz and Paula. It was great to see so many people here from Parks and Rec, and what I'm hearing from everybody is how clean everybody when they left, they picked up and cleaned. We wish they stayed around a little bit longer, so the traffic would have been a little bit easier for everybody. But all in all, this area did a great job of really showing people what we can do together.
We were talking, there were glitches, of course. Like, I think the one thing we noticed that was fairly glaring, at least in the Newport Derby area, was the lack of toilet facilities. Like, that there was a lot of people desperately hunting for
Right.
a place to do their business. But, instead of focusing on it as a negative, which I think occurred throughout the state probably. That'll be resolved next time probably.
Well, yeah, you learn from those. It's an opportunity.
Right.
This area hadn't seen that many people in many. You've got pictures, with the Northern Journal.
Yeah.
Is you take pictures and everybody goes, well, I remember when it was packed down on Main Street, and the old timers, when you look at pictures and it's packed. Well, Newport was packed that day, and yes, some mistakes happened, but we learned from them.
No, that's it. And this is I can speak for my business, and I think I can speak for a lot of businesses. This is typically a slow time of year. This is the period between winter and summer, and other than say maybe garden shops and such, a lot of us are, slow. As for myself, I did not have enough vision. I sold a few hundred of my Eclipse coffee cups. In hindsight, I now realize I could have probably sold 2,000 to 3,000 of them. They just, they were gone. Boom, gone just like that. But live and learn. I won't, I could cry over lost money, but so.
Yeah, but again, it's an opportunity to, whatever we do next,
Right.
big, we know we can do it.
Right.
And we know we've got to be prepared for that many people coming in. That it's across the board. I think it wasn't just in this area, Newport area. I think it was across Vermont.
Yeah.
Vermont's not always great on that piece right there.
Right.
So it was a beautiful day. You couldn't ask for better weather. It was calm out. It was great.
One thing I love about tourists, is sometimes it takes tourists to, especially first-time tourists to an area, to get you to, for us locals to actually be reminded about how beautiful it is. Because sometimes we, as locals, sometimes forget. And that's how come I love being a tourist too. When I travel, I don't go to these tourist destinations. I try to avoid tourist destinations. I come to places like the Northeast Kingdom versus other, parts of Vermont that I don't even recognize. And so, yeah, I learned so much from tourists or newcomers to the region.
Well, and that's the thing. I talk a lot, but I was up in Quebec City and they had a bunch of tour buses coming in and cruise ships coming in, and I said, isn't this great? And they said, most of us pass this by. It's an opportunity for them to put on a show in their windows so that people would, when they do come back with their families, that they go into their stores. So this was an opportunity. I think we did, the area leaders did a really wonderful job in St. Jay all the way through St. Albans, Jay Peak, everywhere.
I'm going to tell you, I was actually a little worried for a while because I had been writing a lot about the 32 eclipse, because I've written about the 32 eclipse throughout the years, but I wasn't seeing or hearing anything up until the beginning of the year. Even there was a lot of people and a lot of communities that I don't think it had really dawned on them what this could mean
For the economy.
And then because I do think I went around and I saw businesses my only thought was, boy, how are they keeping up? But everybody seemed happy.
Yep.
One thing, at first I thought, and in hindsight, now I realize, of course, when they closed schools, when they didn't have, at first when they said they're going to close school, I thought, well, why don't they just have half a day? In hindsight, closing the schools was a no-brainer. Can you imagine trying to deliver kids home?
Well, yeah, and it was across the board. We wouldn't have had the parking areas that you would have had. Banks closed. It allowed parking for their areas, at noon, a lot of them. So I just look at the technology. So we're talking about the 32 Eclipse. And seeing the technology from then to now, just think of when the next eclipse happens. And, I think the big one that's coming across the United States, it's not going to come into this area, but that's to 2045 or something like that. So that's the next big one. But it was really great. I have friends in Texas all the way up through. It was really great.
Do you know, it's interesting now, there are people who go around the world chasing eclipses. As much as I loved it, I don't think I would get into that. I think it really meant more to me because it was in my yard. And to actually go chasing into somebody else, that wouldn't do anything. Because I was supposed to be on the other side of the world right now, and I told my partner, I says, no, I need to be here. I said, I will join you after the eclipse because I just knew there was no place I wanted to be more than right here.
Well, you appreciate the Northeast Kingdom. We talk about it all the time. This area, we're so used, and the same thing always happens, but there's so much beauty around us, and people came here and saw what the beauty is, from Coventry Falls alpacas, to the lavender farm, to all the the maple, whether it's Jed's maple or any of the other great maple sugars around. So it was great.
Your photos, and there are other drone photographers out there as well, is you actually bring it to a new level, because even me as a local is, until I started, like Dan Garvin used to bring me up to take photos, and then drones came, and it provides you with an insight that you don't get down here on the ground.
No, and I think that's, Dan does a wonderful job, and I would highly recommend going there for going up for an airplane ride, because he does such a great job. But drones have definitely taken it to, extreme, where they can get down low, or, 400 feet in the air.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it gets up there fast.
With only a few more minutes left, did you have to do anything special to capture your?
Yep. I actually set it up. I got the darkest lens possible for that, because I was worried, of all cameras, making sure that you had the right lens on there. When I sent my drone up the other day, and my cameras, I was, because you got thousands and thousands of dollars, so I didn't want to ruin them at the same time. So I had a lot of filters on everything. So it was great. It was exciting to do. It was a once in a lifetime thing. This is our lifetime kind of thing. So it was really, really nice. Yeah.
You mentioned filters and that. The one thing I like about your photography, and there, as I said, there's a number of others, is when your photos look real. I see other photos, they're so busy. I don't mean just with the Eclipse, but with anything. Like, I saw some this last fall that came out of the Lake Willoughby area, and this last year was not the year for foliage photos. But they made,
the dark and orange, and it takes away from the photos.
reality. They actually look fake. And the other thing is, if I were an outsider and I was looking at those and thinking, like, I've got to get there, I appreciate, of course you brighten up things, but you still make things look real.
Well, yeah, you take away from what the photo truly is. So
right.
Yeah.
So are you going to become an eclipse chaser, or do you think this was a one-in-a-lifetime event?
This was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime event. I'd like possibly to do one more, but I'll be very old when that happens.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a great experience, and to be close to family, that was what was great.
Yeah. Oh, my experience was that there was that cooling real quick, but there was also a breeze that came with it. But I didn't notice some things that I noticed back, I think it was 1990s with the partial. I didn't notice I didn't notice birds fluttering around, but I did notice it go quiet. And I watched animals, including my niece's horses, and they didn't really they didn't pick up on it. It just was like, oh, look.
Yeah.
But I know other people noticed different things. But you could feel, to me, because I think I'm good at feeling the bariatric pressure or something. There was something that I could feel it in my body. Could you?
So I was like, Mother Nature took a deep breath.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it kind of reminded me of, is a deep breath.
Right.
That Mother Nature just did. Like, hey, here's a time to reset and take a deep breath.
And I was fortunate, and I'm still fortunate to be interviewing people who remember the 32 eclipse, and who, because they listed it as they promoted it as a once-in-a-lifetime event. There are a handful of people. This was a twice-in-a-lifetime here in the Northeast Kingdom. So
Absolutely.
Okay, well, you did a great job at capturing the this once in a lifetime event for us, and as you always do. So,
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me on your show. Like I said, that there's other photographers around this area that do such a wonderful job too. You know, and they also care about this area. So,
yeah, no, we are blessed with a lot of good photographers.
yeah. Yep.
Okay, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
And thank you to the viewers for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.